Power doesn't beg, it doesn't shout, it doesn't plead for attention. Real power lingers in silence, wrapped in mystery, daring the world to try and figure it out. Nietzsche's will to power wasn't about throwing fists or winning arguments. It was about bending reality with sheer presence, walking into a room and owning it without uttering a single word. And that's what I'm going to show you today. How to outsmart anyone, not with talk, not with tricks, but with silence so sharp it cuts deeper than any speech. Most people don't get this. They think control comes from being the loudest voice, from arguing their way to victory, from proving themselves over and over again. But what actually happens? They drain themselves dry. They give away their strength for free. They expose their desperation every time they can't stop talking. And then there's the man who sits still, who doesn't rush, who doesn't play the same game. That man becomes terrifying. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence becomes the ultimate weapon. Think about real life. You've probably felt it. That person who doesn't jump in during the argument, who doesn't explain themselves, who doesn't scramble to justify their actions. They just look at you, and that look feels heavier than 1,000 words. That's the kind of energy Nietzsche spoke of, the kind that makes people second-guess themselves, overthink, stumble, and eventually reveal everything without you asking. You don't have to fight them. They fight themselves in the silence you create. This is why silence works. It plays directly into human psychology. People can't handle it. Silence feels like a mirror held up to their insecurities. They fill it with nervous laughter, excuses, rambling words, hoping to cover up what they don't want you to see. And the more they speak, the more they bleed information, giving you insight, leverage, power, while you haven't moved an inch. That's how you win without playing. That's how you outsmart without showing your cards. But let me be clear, this is not about tricking people. This is not about playing some manipulative game. This is about self-mastery, about becoming so centered, so in control that you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. You are the weight in the room. You are the silence that commands attention. And once you embody this, people chase your energy without knowing why. They lean toward you, trying to break the mystery while you simply stand there, unshaken. That's how silent influence works. And listen, before we dive deeper, don't skip this, because every second of this video carries a principle that can shift the way you move through life. If you want to master power without noise, if you want to feel the thrill of people bending toward your silence, then stay locked in. And if you're ready to step into that kind of presence, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Because what you're about to learn is not just philosophy, it's a weapon for life. Now, let's break down these Nietzschean principles of silent influence, each one forged in fire, each one something you can carry into real life, starting today. A man who cannot govern his own reactions is already defeated before the battle even begins. The enemy doesn't need to strike him down, doesn't need to raise a sword, just whisper the right insult, just prod the right wound, and he will collapse like a house of cards. That is the average man. But you are not average. You are building something different, something terrifying to the weak. You are sculpting yourself into a fortress no storm can shake. a citadel of discipline that laughs at provocation. When others scream, you do not raise your voice. You strangle the noise with silence. When someone claws at your pride, your face remains like carved stone, unreadable, unbreakable. When lies are spat in your direction, your breathing doesn't shift, your eyes don't blink, your body doesn't twitch. And that stillness, oh, that stillness, is what unnerves them more than fury ever could. They want to see you lose control. They hunger for cracks in your armor. But when you give them nothing, when you refuse to dance to their tune, you become the ghost that haunts their mind. Do not wait for anger to consume you. Cut it down before it takes form. Feel the spark rise inside your chest and crush it with awareness. That pause, just a few seconds of ruthless composure, becomes your sword and shield. Let them throw fire at you. Let them spit venom, dig claws, hurl shadows. You, my friend, must stand like an unmovable tower. No flinch, no tremor, no surrender. The more you remain unshaken, the more they crumble under the weight of their own desperation. The majority of people are marionettes, jerking with every tug of emotion. They think they're free, yet anyone can pull their strings with a smirk, a word, a gesture. Not you. You burn the strings. You rip yourself out of their control and rise above their childish games. You don't just hold composure, you weaponize it. You make silence feel like thunder. You turn calmness into a blade that slices deeper than anger ever could. And in this madness, a strange transformation happens. People stop seeing you as ordinary. They start orbiting you, drawn to that rare force that refuses to bow to chaos. They feel it, that you are different, that you do not live in the storms they drown in, that you are the eye of the hurricane, untouchable, unreachable, unfathomable. Some will respect you, some will fear you, but all will recognize the truth. You cannot be bent. Master your reactions, and you become untamed power disguised as stillness. A fortress that bleeds no weakness. A presence that commands without words. A fire that burns without smoke. And once you taste that kind of power, you will never hand it back. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not absence. Silence is a weapon sharper than steel, a psychological knife that cuts deeper than any shouted word. While others trip over their tongues, desperate to fill the void with noise, you stand still, saying nothing. And in that stillness, you control everything. Most people are terrified of silence. They squirm in it, they sweat in it, they choke on their own words, trying to smother it. They treat silence like a cage. But you, if you learn to master it, you become the one holding the key. Imagine someone throwing a half-truth at you, a statement dripping with lies, manipulation, or arrogance. The ordinary man lunges back instantly, his words spilling like bullets, his face showing every shade of frustration. But you do nothing. You let the silence stretch, heavy and merciless, pressing down on their chest. You keep your eyes locked, your face unreadable, your body calm. That silence becomes a mirror they cannot escape. They start to see their own reflection in it, and it terrifies them. The more you say nothing, the louder their own mind becomes. They start to fidget, to stumble, to scramble for words to fill the unbearable void. And in their desperation, they reveal themselves. They confess without realizing. They expose their motives, their fears, their insecurities. They justify what doesn't need justifying. They over-explain what didn't need explaining. They give you their secrets while thinking they're hiding them. Silence didn't just break them, It stripped them naked. This is not ordinary silence. This is not politeness. This is calculated silence, weaponized silence, silence with teeth. And in negotiations, in conflict, in the games people play to mask who they really are, this silence is pure chaos disguised as calm. They wanted to impress you, deceive you, dominate you. Instead, they collapse into their own discomfort, handing you all the leverage. Some will think you're judging them, and the fear of your unseen judgment will make them speak faster, spill more, lose their mask entirely. Others will think you're wise, that your silence is depth, that you're playing a game they cannot even understand, and they will admire you, even worship you for the composure you didn't break. Either way, silence bends them to your will. Let them ramble, let them sweat, let them reveal the cracks they tried to hide. The silence is your storm, your invisible weapon, your psychological chokehold. While they drown in the noise they create, you remain the stillness that owns the room. And that stillness, unyielding, merciless, calculated, makes you untouchable. A man's presence should feel like gravity, not loud, not desperate, not frantic, just undeniable. When you enter a room, the air should change. Conversations may not stop, but something in the atmosphere shifts, subtle, invisible, yet heavy enough that people sense it without knowing why. That is presence. That is confidence without noise. That is strength without needing to prove itself. You don't beg for respect, you demand it without a single word. The way you stand tall, shoulders back, spine unbent, communicates more than 1,000 speeches. Every step must carry the weight of certainty, as if the ground belongs to you before your foot even touches it. No hurried movements, no nervous ticks, no wasted energy. When you move with purpose, like a predator that knows it has nothing to chase because everything already comes to it. This is not about intimidation. Intimidation is a weapon of the insecure. This is about embodying such raw comfort in your own skin that others cannot help but acknowledge it. Eye contact steady but never desperate. A gaze that says, "I see you clearly, and I will not look away." Not a stare to dominate, but a look so unwavering it feels like a mirror that strips away masks. That kind of composure makes people fold in front of you because they feel you see through them while they cannot even read you. Practice this until it becomes part of your blood. Walk into any room as if you already belong, because you do. Sit without fidgeting, stand without swaying, move as though time itself bends to your rhythm. When your body shows no rush, no anxiety, no craving for approval, the world starts to lean toward you, because in an age of constant restlessness, a man who moves slowly, deliberately, fearlessly, becomes magnetic. People will defer to you without understanding why. They may have higher titles, bigger paychecks, longer resumes, but none of it matters. In the moment, presence crushes credentials. Authority collapses in front of certainty. The man who radiates composure bends the room to his orbit, because everyone secretly craves that kind of unshakable calm. This culture worships attention, desperation, and noise. Everyone is clawing for validation, dripping with anxiety, addicted to approval. But when you embody stillness, when you breathe like nothing can touch you, when you carry yourself like you are already complete, you stand out like fire in a sea of shadows. You don't just walk into rooms, you own them. You don't just exist in space, you dominate it. You don't just move, you announce without words, "I am here," and that is enough. The most dangerous man in the room is not the one shouting. It is not the one pounding his chest, desperate to prove himself. The most dangerous man is the one who sits quietly, watching, recording, dissecting every movement, every flicker of expression, every tremor in someone's voice. He says nothing, he reveals nothing, and yet he knows everything. You must become that man. Develop the predator's eyes, the kind that see beyond words, beyond masks, beyond the polished image people try so hard to project. Watch the twitch of a lip when they lie, the hesitation in their tone when they exaggerate, the subtle tightening of the jaw when they feel threatened. People betray themselves in fragments. They think they're clever, but their own bodies turn traitor. Your job is to catch those betrayals and store them like weapons in your arsenal. But here's the key. You cannot let it show. Your face must be unreadable, a mask of calm neutrality, so polished that they feel safe opening themselves up. If your eyes reveal judgment, they'll retreat into armor. If your body reacts too soon, they'll sense you've seen through them. So you become a mirror, smooth, reflective, empty. They see no threat, and because of that, they reveal everything. You are not simply listening to words, you are listening to the spaces between them, the pauses, the contradictions, the gaps where truth bleeds through. You notice when someone praises you with words but resents you with their eyes. You notice when someone pretends to admire but secretly burns with envy. You notice the performance, the rehearsed lines, the desperate need for approval, and you file it all away in silence. And what does this give you? Power. Power no one else even realizes you're collecting. You know when they are lying. You know when they are afraid. You know when desire grips them, when jealousy poisons them, when manipulation crawls out of their mouth, dressed as kindness. You see their insecurities laid bare while they still believe they are hiding them. And through it all, you remain untouched, unreadable, impossible to decipher. Most people expose themselves within minutes if you let them talk. They trip over their own contradictions. They drown in their own overcompensation. They confess their weaknesses without realizing it. And all the while, you sit there like a still shadow, silent, patient, dangerous. They think they're winning the game, but the truth is, you already own the board. To observe everything and judge nothing visibly is to carry invisible chains around the necks of others. They don't even realize you hold them, but when the time comes, when you need to act, when you need leverage, you will already have all the ammunition you need. Because while they were busy performing, you were busy watching. And the watcher always walks away with the crown. Your attention is not cheap. Your time is not disposable. Your energy is not a faucet that runs endlessly for anyone who asks. Yet most men bleed themselves dry, handing out validation like candy, scattering their presence as if it holds no weight. They become too available, too eager, too easy to reach. And in doing so, they erase their own value. You must become the opposite. You must make yourself rare, selective, untouchable. Because in this world, what is scarce becomes priceless. Scarcity is power. When you are not instantly reachable, when your approval is not tossed carelessly, when your time is guarded like treasure, people begin to crave it. They lean in, They chase. They wonder what you're doing, who you're with, why you haven't answered. Every unanswered message grows heavier. Every delay becomes a test. They want your attention, and the more they can't have it, the more they hunger for it. That hunger makes you the prize, not the beggar. This is not about being rude or dismissive. No, that's the tactic of the insecure. This is about being deliberate. When you choose to respond, it's on your time. When you say yes to an invitation, it's because you want to, not because you're afraid to disappoint. When you offer praise, it's not hollow. It's so rare, so sharp, so intentional that it burns into their memory. One compliment from you will outweigh 100 from anyone else. Understand this. People are addicted to the chase. They worship what feels exclusive. The rarer your approval, the more valuable it becomes. The less accessible your time, the more they will fight for a piece of it. The moment they sense you are not desperate to be seen, that you do not need their validation to breathe, something flips inside them. They start competing for you. They start performing for you. They start fearing the loss of you. And that is the true shift. You stop being the one who pursues, and you become the one pursued. You stop being another face in the crowd, and you become the one whose attention feels like gold dust in their hands. Your presence becomes a currency people scramble to earn. Your absence becomes a wound they cannot ignore. Your silence becomes louder than their noise. The man who guards his time, his energy, his approval becomes magnetic. He radiates a silent message. I am not here to entertain you. I am not here to be consumed. I am here because I choose to be. That is the essence of power. That is the art of scarcity. And when you master it, you no longer chase the world. The world bends itself, hungry, restless, desperate to chase you. These principles work because they address fundamental aspects of human psychology: our need for validation, our fear of judgment, our attraction to confidence, and our tendency to assign value based on scarcity. When you embody these qualities consistently, you become someone who commands natural respect and influences others without manipulation or coercion. The true power in these techniques lies not in using them to exploit others, but in developing genuine self-mastery and authentic confidence. As Nietzsche understood, the highest form of power is power over oneself. When you achieve this level of self-possession, external influence becomes effortless because you're no longer seeking anything from others. You're simply being your most powerful, authentic self. Remember that this approach requires patience and practice. It's a complete reorientation of how you move through the world, shifting from seeking approval and trying to impress others to becoming someone so self-contained and confident that others naturally want to impress you. The goal isn't to become cold or calculating, but to become so genuinely powerful in your own right that you influence others through the sheer force of your authentic presence. Master these principles, and you'll find that people will often give you exactly what you want without you ever having to ask for it, simply because being around your centered, confident energy makes them want to rise to your level and earn your respect.